The other thing as well is about the New Zealand culture. I mean, what strikes me, and from what I've been told, and from certainly the Kiwi friends that I've always had, is very pragmatic, no nonsense, no fluff, no kind of hyperbole in a sense. Get down to business. And I know Jake sent some examples, and I love the one from Bond and Bond. You want it, we've got it, let's talk. There's something there about what I call RU, relevance, utility, and experience. Andy touched a lot on this idea of experience. But also, I think a big part of this is relevance and utility. If we're not adding value to our consumers' lives, if we're not giving them information or education or entertainment or surprising them, whatever the case may be, if we're not relevant and part of their lives, if there isn't that context, then at the end of the day, we're nothing more than space invaders, oxygen invaders. Andy spoke about this idea about shareability and talkability. I want to add on that, and I want to say that, at the end of the day, yes, giving people a reason to talk is critical, and recognizing that there's nothing more powerful than a lover scorned. That's as powerful, in fact, as damaging. But I would argue that the biggest enemy that we have right now is apathy. It's indifference. It's being ignored or being forgotten. And that's happening far too often, especially, I obviously can't see you guys, but the gentleman that spoke about clutter. There is too much clutter. That clutter isn't even always coming from marketers. It's sometimes coming from us as well. I can't keep up with the number of blogs and Twitter tweets and podcasts. I'm overloaded myself. I'm sure every single one of you, bar none in that room, are overloaded with information. And there's a lot of relevant information we're missing as well. The problem right now is being lost in the shuffle, lost in the clutter. And if we don't give people a reason to talk, to go back to what Andy said, we are in danger of being forgotten and being ignored. So let me spend a couple of minutes, I believe I have about 6 or 7 minutes left, to talk about this idea of conversational marketing. What is it? And I'm sure you guys have heard of this term social media. Why do I not refer to social media? Well, conversational marketing, I believe, is the power of community, dialogue, and partnership. It is word of mouth. It is viral. It is buzz. It is influencer outreach. It is blogger activation. It is between two or more sides as opposed to two or more people. A bunch of angry, disheveled, smelly, gown-wearing, basement-dwelling, living at mom-and-pop bloggers all calling you stupid is not a conversation. That's a mob. That doesn't add any value. But when you guys, when the brands join the conversation, when the brands defend themselves, when the brands are prepared to be a little bit more human, humble, show that humility, that irreverence, self-deprecation. I know there's a lot of irreverence in New Zealand and Australia, which I love, which is very similar, obviously, to South Africa. We don't care. We don't mind it. People kind of take the piss out of us. We're prepared to kind of roll up our sleeves and get our hands dirty. We're not so prim and proper. We keep it real. That's what conversation is about at the end of the day. So a lot of people talk about this idea of social media. And I say, well, wait a second. Media to me is a swear word. Let's talk about this idea that media, well, look, media is paid, it is non-paid. A lot of this word of mouth and this viral and this buzz is earned. So we have to put it all together, earned, paid, non-paid, all together to create a reason to believe, a reason to behave, a reason to care. And I think that is what the basis or the foundation is of conversational marketing. There is a lot of stuff going on right now. There is a lot of change in the market. It is unbelievable the amount of innovation and fragmentation. But here's how I want you to think about the difference between communication and conversation. First of all, don't think of conversation as a cure-all. Don't think of it as being better than communication. That's why I wanted to just specify. Your paid media doesn't have to go away, but it will do a lot better for you if you think about a couple of things. One, the point that I made earlier, every single message can be a conversation starter. Think about that call to action. Think about giving a reason to be able to continue that conversation, oftentimes on your website or your blog. The other thing, and my company Crown does a lot of this, what we call influencer outreach, which is being able to engage the influencers. And again, to Andy's point, they're not a mythical, weird type of group that hides in a corner of the world, and when you push the green light, they go out and talk about you. They're probably your mom, or your grandmother if it's about knitting, or yourselves if it's about white river rafting, whatever your interests are. People are experts and enthusiasts, and if they happen to just love you enough, to Andy's point, and you give them the tools to share, and they have their own tools to share, guess what's going to happen? They're going to share. So the way that I like to think about it is twofold. One is communication is about kicking the door down. It's about getting your foot in the door. It's about getting you into the game, the ante-out in a game of high-stakes poker. Conversation is about your consumers opening up the door and inviting you in and saying, hey, you heard me, you listened to what we had to say. You understand our pain, what keeps us up at night, what gets us out of bed in the morning. You're one of us, you're okay. That's really the difference. And if we can figure out how to build layers of conversation around communication, how to marry the two together, how to figure out how to amplify, extend, and enhance our messages, we're going to get to a very different place. Let me spend the last 2 minutes giving you a few examples in the space of community, dialogue, and partnership. Well, with respect to community, I'll give you an example of actually a program that we're doing with our clients, with Panasonic of North America. They have a program called Living in High Definition. And they went out and they found 30 families initially, and they gave them, I can't tell you how much, but basically a suite of high-definition tools. What we've done now is there was a promotional website where 30 families would show, there'd be videos of these 30 families on a website. But now we've been able to create a community. So you don't have to be one of the families that participated to now be involved in this place, in livinginhd.com. Anybody that has either bought a Panasonic product, or even if they haven't bought a Panasonic product, can join this community. So why? Why should we care? Why is that important to join a community about high-definition consumer electronics equipment? Well, have any of you bought a digital camera or camcorder lately and be honest, been able to understand more than 4% of the manual in 12 different languages? It doesn't make sense. Most of us, it's literally a manual for consumer electronics item is like the human brain. It's kind of like Microsoft Office. If we use more than 4% of it, we're a friggin' genius. But what if, instead of a big fat manual killing trees and destroying the environment, you could join a community and you could actually be united with like-minded people? Where now, if you have a problem, how do I use this camera? You know, how do I take a beautiful video with night vision? What about inspirational ideas? What about being able to literally share tips, tools, tricks, tutorials with one another? What would happen there? What would happen if the wisdom of crowds could come together with the brand, not as the hero, but the brand as maybe the host of a party, saying, come on in. You know, talk amongst yourselves. I'll give you a topic. Rhode Island is neither a rose nor an island. Discuss. That's the kind of power of community and conversation. That's what we hope will come out of livinginhd.com.